Welcome to Everlasting Talk. Hello, welcome to Everlasting Talk. I'm Most Ever. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we get started, make sure to check me out or Everlasting Talk on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Blogger, and more. And Kick now. We're on Kick too. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Today we're doing a biography series on Marie Curie. Marie Curie, an extraordinary woman whose scientific discoveries revolutionized the field of physics and medicine. Born Maria Salilema Skłodowski on November 7th, 1867, sorry for the bad grammar, in Warsaw, Poland, at the time part of the Russian Empire. She was the fifth and the youngest child of the family. At a young age, she displayed a great love for academics and a deep curiosity about the natural world. At age 10, her mother died of tuberculosis in 1787, and her sister, Zofia, died of typhus less than 3 years later. Um, Maria at the time, she would end up being agnostic, leaving the Catholic Church because of the deaths of her mother and sister. Eventually, she ended up in or around 1883 with relatives in the countryside, but due to being a woman, she wasn't able to attend higher education at the time in her country, but ended up at a school called the Flying University. It was an underground school from 1885 to 1905 that existed where women could study because at the time the Russian Empire was against women being educated, so they had like an underground school, like no one knew about. Eventually, she ended up leaving Poland for France to study at the University of Paris, where she studied physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Um, she eventually would stay with her sister and brother in law. Eventually, she got her degree in physics in 1893 and got a second degree in 1894. Um, During this time, she would actually meet Pierre Curie. Eventually, they developed feelings for each other, and he proposed to her, but she denied, wanting to visit family first. I think initially she wanted to go visit family and come back. Um, but she ended up going to Poland, but then she eventually came back to pursue her PhD. Um, Finally, after about a year or so, they would end up getting married in a non-religious service on July 26, 1895. She would wear I think she didn't even wear a traditional gown, to be honest. She actually ended up, I think the thing she wore at her wedding, she actually wore for like her studies and stuff. Um, now Marie Curie, she would when she went to France, she went from Maria to Marie. So her, obviously, it's why when you look up history, it could be Maria Curie or Marie Curie. Her initial name was Maria Curie, but when she went to France, it was Marie. So that's why I say Marie now. It's kind of confusing sometimes. But Curie would go on to work using her husband's electrometer, where she discovered that uranium rays caused the air around a sample to conduct electricity. Her groundbreaking work on radioactive elements led to the discovery of two elements, polonium and radium. Her work in the study of elements carried her to become the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1903, along with Pierre and Henry Becquerel in physics. In 1911, she would be the first person to win a second Nobel Peace Prize, this time in chemistry. Her discoveries paved the way for advancements in medicine. She saw radiation being important in treating cancer and developed mobile X ray units to help soldiers during World War II. She persevered through challenges of being a woman, breaking barriers, and um, being opening the doors for future uh, women in science. Eventually, Marie Curie would pass away on July 4th, 1934, at the age 66 in Poland of aplastic anemia. Due to years of exposure to radiation, damaging bone marrow over time, she had so much radiation that poisoning from the years of she would carrying samples in her pockets. She might have some exposure when she put it in her mouth. That's probably what prolonged her um, demise eventually. But yeah, she was exposed to X-rays, without the proper equipment. At the time they didn't really know that, and radiographies during the war. So her body was dug up twice. Eventually, first time it was dug up to see how much radiation she had. Second time was dug up to do the same thing. But the second time they transferred her body to the Paris Pantheon, they had to line her body with lead because of the radioactivity. So she had that much radioactivity in her that they had to put lead on her coffin at the Pantheon to actually just put her there. She was so contaminated. Her papers and other things were considered radioactive. You had to wear protective clothing. You had to carry documents in a lead box. Just that's how much poison. How much of the poison she got from it. But we understand now that radioactivity is really bad. But at the time, they said like she would carry test tubes of radioactive elements in her pockets. Like I said, she might have accidentally put it in her mouth. She probably touched something and then she like ate or something. So that led to poisoning as well. Fortunately, before she died, she was actually working on a book called Radioactivity. But it was released after her death in 1935. So almost like a year later, they released her book. But yeah, I mean, Marie Curie is definitely a woman who uh, definitely like changed the course of history with her scientific accomplishments. Her spirit and pursuit of knowledge begins to resonate, reminding us of how greatness has no gender. If you have anything to leave you guys with, I'll leave you guys with some facts. Um, the element of the atomic number 96 was named after Curie, or it's called curium or cm. The Curie symbol Ci is a unit of radioactivity in honor of her and her husband. There's so many things, like there's awards she won. She's won the Nobel Peace Prize in Physics 1903, the Davy Medal 1903, the Matsushita Medal 1904, the Santien Prize in 1907, the Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry 1911. Because she was a woman, she was not able to do speeches sometimes, so her husband had to do speeches for her. So that's how like society has been. Like a woman couldn't even like show off her own research and stuff. So there's definitely something to look into. Like nowadays everything's changed, but back then she couldn't even do a speech, and she discovered things. She discovered multiple things. She was very intelligent, but because she was a woman, they didn't give her a chance. So she definitely broke the barriers. And do some recommendations for you, some books and some movies you could look at. Her daughter wrote a book actually. Her name. She had a daughter. I forgot to mention that, but she has a daughter named Eve, and she wrote the book Madame Curie in 1938. So check that out. There's Obsessive Genius: The Inner World of Marie Curie in 2005 by Robert Goldstein. Radioactive: The Marie and Pierre Curie: A Tale of Love and Fallout, 2011 by Lauren Redness. That actual book went into a 2019 movie called Radioactive. Um, it's a British film, a 2016 film called Marie Curie: The Courage of Knowledge. 2014 film called Marie Curie: Une femme sur le front. It's a movie you could look at there. But yeah, so many different things she did, and she's definitely one of the women that changed history, and with her discoveries, definitely helped change the world. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today on this episode of Everlasting Talk. I appreciate you guys, the ones that stuck around. But yeah, I would love your support. I got a link tree. Anything you guys could do. I have merch on Spring. I have journals on Amazon. But yeah, or you can just follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Blogger, Spotify, and and from there, if anything, just tell your family and friends to support. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. Next episode, we're gonna talk about Genghis Khan. So yeah, so thank you guys so much on this biography episode of Marie Curie. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everlasting Talk. For more content, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Everlasting Talk. Thank you.